Welcome to Charts Today. My name is David Linton, and today's edition for Monday, the 3rd of April, comes to you from Lisbon in Portugal. I've been seeing clients here. So, first of all, we start by looking at currencies, then we look at stock markets, commodities, and last of all, some US tech. So, the dollar index we see here, we've had a good run on the dollar the last few days, building that strength back again. We haven't yet locked out this column on the short term chart. If we do end up locking this column out, that will give us an upside target of about 3.4%. So it's not locked out yet, but that's where we will see a target build off that thrust. Interestingly, we still are looking a little bit bearish on the medium-term chart. We see here just below the cloud. We were below the cloud this time last year, so it's not impossible that we will see a little deterioration in the medium term, but the long-term chart is the key. We're seeing good upside targets here, and we are just testing this support level at around 100 on the dollar index. But the dollar strength at the moment is here for the short term, so just keep an eye on the short-term charts. Look at the euro. Euro fell away quite substantially again. Medium term, we're finding some support here at the moment about this 106 level. This 105 level is really critical. We tested that in February, early March. We break through below that, then that's pretty bearish for the euro. And we see here we're still bearish in the long term and bearish in the short term. Again, we will get a downside target on this thrust as well, and that's a downside of about 4.2% to 102. So interestingly, we are seeing this mixed picture, but again, we do have this very bearish long-term picture to worry about for the euro. So it still doesn't look great in the long term. Japanese yen, we see here the recovery again against the dollar, not as clear cut, but we are seeing that recovery nonetheless. So dollar strength is a factor there, and sterling jumped again above the cloud on the dollar, so we're seeing sterling relative strength. But just again looking at this weekly chart, and the great thing about the weekly chart is it just shows you things that you may not otherwise see, and we see how we have this narrowing pattern. Again, we're just narrowing to a point here on the chart, and we're seeing here that sterling really is at the moment just narrowing in on that pattern. If we look at that low point there, and watching for the break will be really key. Will we break higher than this level we saw here, 127, or will we break lower than this 121.10 level? But 3-4 good weeks so far on sterling. We haven't had a couple of big weeks down like since we've seen in October and the Brexit announcement itself. But sterling does look like it's building some short-term strength against the US dollar. Looking at sterling against the euro, we see sterling improving there as well, and against the Swiss franc we see an improvement, and against the Australian dollar as high as 165. We do have this 155 target that will be negated with a move above 165.66 and activated with a move below 162. So just again something to keep an eye on. Looking at stock markets ended up having quite a good week. We saw just the last few days of trading of last week, we just recovered and got above on the short-term chart in the S&P 500. We still look very strong medium and long term. Short term, we do have some downside targets with this volatility that's kicked in the last week or two. But the interesting thing is that the market is still bullish medium long term and just moving back above the cloud in the short term. The Nasdaq is much more clearly bullish, tech really rising, and it's bullish on long and short, medium term charts. So bullish on all three time frames for US tech. We see the same for the Dow Jones Index. We're bullish above the cloud in the medium and long term. Short term, we're still weak, so we're just below the cloud there, but not a lot of work to do to turn bullish there either. And the Russell 2000 bullish on all three time frames. A good recovery there in the last few days of last week, just straight line up through the cloud. Futures are up slightly this morning, the S&P future and the Nasdaq E-mini. So we are seeing some improvement there as well, just breaking to new highs. The FTSE ended the week a little bit down, didn't really do as well as the US market, just a bit more volatile. And we saw with the 250 also we just got through the cloud, still looking good on the long and medium term. The DAX, however, really did climb very sharply at the end of the week, and we're seeing here that strong week taking us really to levels that we haven't seen for over 2 years. So the DAX breaking to new highs. Nikkei also on that weeky yen, just also just not quite getting back above the cloud, but the medium-term chart still on a knife edge as to which way we break. Will we go above 19,500 or below 18,500? We're in that range. We see that playing out on the weekly chart, waiting for the break. Hang Seng just holding on to some bullishness on the short-term chart, but not as strong a week as we've seen in other markets. And Shanghai fell away last week, so we did see us just coming back below the cloud with a downside of about 2%. Looking at the Sensex, bullish on all three time frames. The one market that really has persevered through any weakness that we've seen in the recent couple of weeks. No real sell-off, finding support on the cloud, bullish on all three time frames. Upside targets of about 3%, and long term as much as 44, 44, 50%. Looking at the Australian market, again, strong finish to the week. Bullish on all three time frames and lots of upside targets. We talk about this every week. Lots of upside targets. Australian market looking pretty good. Brent crude, we held the $51 level, so we are looking a bit stronger as we go through this recovery. A little bit of a double bottom going on here. We are just in this strong uptrend. Can we maintain it? New upside target of 55.60 not activated. We need to get a move above 53.80 to activate that. So at the moment it's looking pretty good on the recovery, but this move is still hanging over us quite a bit. Looking at WTI, again, we're seeing a sharp recovery here as well. Bullish on the long-term chart and the short-term chart, but we do have this downside target now hanging over us to $37. Looking at US nat gas, holding on to its bullishness at around $3.23. 344 is the next stop. 324 was the target. We got there and just passed it. 344 is the next stop on the short-term chart, so that will be interesting. We're waiting for the break out of this range. Copper, just sedate week really, didn't really rise through. And if we look at some of the other things like wheat did bounce above the clouds, so looking better short term, but the medium and long term charts pretty dire. We still have all these downside targets hanging over us and a really clear downtrend for wheat. Soybeans looking really bearish. We broke below the cloud and really just falling away here. So softs generally not looking great. We're seeing here corn, on the other hand, did jump. But again, the wheat long-term chart is still pretty bearish. Gold did just turn bearish last week. We're just struggling to get above the cloud here short term. We are bullish in the medium and long term. We do have this short-term downside target now of 1231, but the upside target here of 1293 is still there. So, and we're seeing these quite bullish upside targets as well. The point and figure charts are still showing some bearish trends, while the cloud charts are showing some bullish ones. So it's a pretty mixed picture at the moment. Silver, much the same as we would expect, but it's held on to its bullishness on the short-term chart better than gold. Taking a look at US Treasury yields, sitting at 2.4%. Bullish in all three time frames, so still looking bullish there. Apple running away at the moment, just looking brilliant on all three charts. Did last few days just go sideways, but the chart looks amazing. Had a great start to the week last week, Apple. Google looking bullish again, just getting back above the cloud in the short term. Amazon very clearly bullish, lots of upside targets. 7%, 4%, and 2% on the short-term chart alone, breaking to new highs, looking amazing. Facebook also breaking to new highs, breaking that 142 level, getting as high as 143 in the week last week, really looking pretty good with lots of upside targets. Microsoft also breaking higher, again lots of upside targets there too, and Nvidia putting in its recovery still, but quite a long period of sideways movement here. So that's quite key. A lot of the other Nasdaq stocks did have a good week, and we will take a look at some of those during the week. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.